And we're back, folks, as we start over with a new page here on the morning show. And of course, we mentioned earlier, right, tomorrow we'll be talking about journalism, which is something we are involved in actually very closely.
This one is about us.
Yeah, definitely. And our guest is?
We have Miss Deidre Isaac Haylock. Good morning, welcome. It doesn't have here what your specific title is, or your job title. Can you tell us?
I'm a self-employed media and communications consultant.
All right, got it. And we were also expected to be joined by a guest from outside the country via Skype, Miss Naxima Ragubir, but we haven't successfully made contact with her yet. So we're going to be standing by for her. But in the meantime, we'll have our little chat with you. Okay. So we are here to talk about media training and ethical journalism. Where do we even begin with a conversation like that?
You're right. It's a loaded one.
Right.
And it's one that Ernesto, yourself, many of us in the media has had for so many times. The training that we're having is something that from the time I came back from studying journalism, I thought, you know, an opportunity to have trainings here for media work is necessary. It was how I started. UWI, School of Continuing Studies, as it was named back then, had a course that was offered on Saturday. And it was for persons already working in the media. And I had a foot in the door because I was part-time at BCB, Friends FM, doing a teenage music dance show. Right, as a radio announcer. And so myself and Tanya York, her dad, Ed York, who's passed on, managed Friends FM at the time, and we convinced him to let us have an hour to do music and play music that young people liked. And so that allowed us to enter the training. But that has since disappeared over the years, and there are no other tertiary level institutions currently offering those kinds of trainings. A few years ago, I had a meeting with a couple folks and representatives from Galen University, trying to have this discussion with them. And they looked, said they were interested in the possibility. But one of the things about it is the level of interest. Because, yes, they're educational institutions and they're not for profit per se, but they do have bills to pay. And to have professors on board, you need to pay. And for a field like journalism, unless it's only print, and even if it's print, you know, the practical side of it requires that you have equipment and all of that, or you have a relationship with a media house, which is how UWI did it. Because for radio, we went to BCB. For television, we went to Great Belize Productions, Channel 5, back then, so that we could have the practical experience. It's a very practical field. So that didn't quite take off, and can't remember how, but I got introduced to a gentleman, Wesley Gibbings, in the Caribbean, and he's on the executive of the Association of Caribbean Media Workers, and he was one of the founding members of the Media Institute of the Caribbean. And they do periodic trainings for persons who are still in the media, professional development. And they also do specific training on specific issues that would help media workers improve their skills. And so I asked him, would you do something like this for Belize? We don't have an association. I was one of two people that they were interacting with in Belize, and he agreed. That was shortly before COVID. But we continued the discussion, and so we're finally here now. And we're introducing something to kind of see if our journalists are interested to walk this walk. So it's, while it says a training, for me it's a kind of wet your foot kind of thing, because each topic that we're offering could be a course in itself. But we're trying to hit some high notes that are very pertinent to the work you do. And it doesn't matter if you've been doing it for 20 years or for 2 years. Refreshing skills on these particular areas and reminders as things evolve is always good. So that's why we're doing this, and we're hoping that the media workers across Belize would sign up and participate. For those in the districts, we can accommodate with a link, and face-to-face we're hoping that the ones that are able to come to the venue would come.
We have our guest now.
Yeah, we have our guest is on.
Naxima Ragubir. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, my dear. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, dear.
We're not getting audio in
We're not getting audio in here, guys. We'll try and sort that out. We can't hear you, but we will figure it out and come back to you.
Okay.
Yeah, are we the only country in the region, well, the Caribbean region, that doesn't have an association?
No, we're not. There are several that don't have an association. In fact, the training joins St. Kitts to us because just a few weeks ago, they resurrected their association. And so clearly there's evidence that not every country has an association. But we do realize the need for it because of what it potentially offers in terms of support and camaraderie and building the sector. And so St. Kitts is jumping back into it and asked to be a part of this training that was organized for Belize. And it was agreed, we agreed. We thought that the cross-country discussions would be interesting so that our media workers can see that the challenges that you face, you're not alone. You know, your colleagues in the Caribbean are facing the exact same challenges. The fact that we don't have an association, we're not alone, we're not an anomaly. It happens. Sometimes we had an association back in the past, right? All right, Ernesto, if you remember, way back when. I remember when I started working in media, we had one. It wasn't like robust and functional, but at least there was known to be one, and we knew who the president was at the time, but it since disappeared. And so you're right, we do need to have that discussion. We do, because it allows you to be able to participate along with your colleagues in platforms like the ACM, the Association of Caribbean Media Workers, and receive support from them, and just being able to talk with somebody who does what you do and face the same challenges that you face.
Let's check in back with Naxima and see if we have audio as yet.
Yeah, see if we...
Hi.
Yes, we can hear you.
We hear.
Okay, great.
It's a little low, but we...
Okay.
I think that's on our end, though.
It's very sunny in
We
Guyana.
have the volume in here for us, guys.
The last time I spoke on one of the programs here in Belize, it was raining, which was a few days ago, and we were having some floods. But the Association of Caribbean Media Workers and the Media Institute of the Caribbean are pleased to be associated with this training. We feel it's necessary training, and it's training that is necessary for all journalists. I don't like to limit the training to just the journalists. I like to say media workers. If you're a media manager, an editor, videographer, photographer, editor, journalist, you should be there and you should participate in the training.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, it is on the 28th, as Deidre might have already mentioned. It's going to be virtual, a hybrid. It's going to be both virtual and in person. All of the presenters are presenting from different locations in the Caribbean, and it's a very packed program. We will be examining a number of useful topics and issues. We are very pleased to have Justice Cathy Ann Waterman-Lachu with us. And she will be looking at journalists and the law and how different laws affect the work that we do. And that is a very important aspect to tune into. You know, there are a number of laws that affect the work that we do. There's access to information, there is cybercrime legislation, defamation, civil suits, and it is very important for us to be au fait with these laws and see how they affect our work, but also understand them and understand if we can use them and when we can use them. Also, Wesley Gibbons, as Deidre had mentioned, will be doing journalism of verification. This is a very important process in what we do. As you know, right now, there's the battle between social media and journalists themselves. And, you know, the bits and pieces of information that we put out there and we put out to the public has to go through several verification processes. And, you know, this is a very important component of what we do. I don't think in many cases there are new things that you're going to learn, but even in cases where they are, it is good for us to have refreshers on these particular issues. As Deidre had mentioned, it's really wetting your toes, but it also is going to give you food for thought because there are a lot of contemporary issues that are really confronting us. in all our training, we try to incorporate this aspect in which is ethical journalism, looking back at the principles and ethics of journalism, you know, whether or not you should take the free lunch, the free phone, and how you report when you do those things, and also how you apply your training and apply what you know as journalists to covering certain incidents, covering stories with women, children, victims of violence, also very important. And very topical over the last few months is the future, well, I'd have to say the last few years, not months, is the future of Caribbean media. And Kiran Maharaj, president of the Media Institute of the Caribbean, will be doing a presentation on that. This comes on the heels of 2 reports launched by both the Media Institute of the Caribbean and also ACM. We launched our State of the Caribbean Media Report, and I hope that the journalists will get a chance to take a look at that report. And the Media Institute, along with UNESCO, launched a media viability, the results of a media viability study done in Jamaica. I feel this training is as important as it is for us and journalists in Belize, media workers in Belize, because it gives an opportunity to the media workers to see what's happening in the region, see what's happening with their counterparts. Deirdre did mention that our colleagues in St. Kitts are going to be joining us, St. Kitts and the Nevis. They recently resuscitated their association, so we're hoping that, you know, there is a lot of information transference and knowledge transference.
Okay.
With Deidre, I brought up the issue. I've been in the business for so long, in and out, that an association it's been difficult to form one. The reason I see first is because we have our own biases within the organization, and we have never put a standard to what we do or given ourselves the respectability that the profession we do is really important, and it has to have certain qualities and standards. I'm glad you're doing this training, because I hope that the attendees will understand that what we do is important. I'm only a talk show host now, gone through the ropes from way back. Like yourself, I have a degree in, well, at that time it was called radio and television, and mass comm at UWI. But what I found out in Belize, and I don't know if the other countries have the same, is that we are afraid to talk to each other, because we are afraid to be told, or I may know more than you and you may know more than I. And it's not only journalism we have the problem here. We are afraid to set standards. How where Nazima comes from, you have an association, I suspect?
We do.
Yeah.
We do. We have the Guyana Press Association.
Right.
It's one of the oldest media bodies in the region. We're actually 77 years old. And Jamaica, the Press Association of Jamaica has the oldest press association in the region. We do have a constitution. Our membership is limited to media workers, and we have a definition for that. So you have to be working in the media, directly working in news gathering. 90% of your salary must come from news gathering, and you have to be working in the media for 3 continuous years.
Correct.
And our membership include journalists, videographers, and photographers. We do have co-op membership. Media houses can join at that level, but they don't have voting rights. And we do have co-op membership for university students and PR officers, but they don't have voting rights. They can attend our training, they can participate in most of our activities, excepting our elections. And I can tell you this, biases are all over. You have state media, private media, people from different walks of life who believe in different things. At the end of the day, the profession and the principles of the profession and what you do must be paramount, and those diverse views and those diverse interactions are critical to the growth and the representation of that organization. I know it can be very challenging in not only the changing times, but you know, with a lot of these organizations, especially media, you are going to people are going to try to find ways, including politicians, to infiltrate them and their agenda. But I feel like if you have solid core principles, that is very important for any organization.
That's the point, Nazima, that's the point I'm trying to make. The core principles. I know in Jamaica that it came out of the arts. You had theater, and a lot of the media personalities in Jamaica were artists, actors, and people who were in that business. And also the university had a course, and they taught it there, so it became a profession. You could earn a degree, you could earn a certificate. And I don't know if it's the same in Guyana, that the university there also offers a formal training in the subject. Historically, the British did not offer a degree in journalism or radio. It went by experience at the BBC. But other universities do offer you a degree, and now you can have a degree. And I think that's what's lacking in our country, Deidre.
Yes,
well, let me just, Deidre, quickly.
Sure.
The University of Guyana does not have a journalism certificate. They do have a public communication program.
Or mass comm.
And it's pretty close because they do some aspects of journalism.
Right.
But we have also, as an association, made a representation to them as an accredited body to set and develop a program that would give journalists a chance, even if it's about a 3 or 6 month training on journalism itself. We feel that something like that is important because, listen, I was 17 years old when I joined this profession, just out of high school, but I was fortunate enough to have people to guide me. And I soaked up every possible training, whether or not it was in Guyana or it was regionally or internationally. And I still do that to this day. If there's something that I want to learn about, and there's something I feel that is lacking, I am going to take up the opportunity to do that training. And you know, you have to be serious about your profession. You have to be serious about professionalizing your work and how you know, people see your work. And you know, there's also an onus on you. Yes, there are opportunities, but there are things that we have to do.
Mm-hmm. You have to love it.
Yes, certainly.
You know, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to Ernesto speak on this, and like he said, he's had quite a lot of years of experience. I know you as well, Miss Deidre, and Naxima, you as well. But I'm from an era where, for one, we never had the opportunity to get formal training in country. That's one. And two, with the internet, people are reporting from all different standards these days. You know, everybody is now a reporter. I just learned the information that I've learned about the situation in Russia following their attack on Ukraine is from YouTubers who are reporting on this from their personal perspectives, from a very informal standpoint. And so journalism, or I don't think we can call it journalism at this point when it becomes so informal, but the way that we disseminate information now is changing so fast, and the lines are becoming very blurred.
But that's the importance, because if you're a professional journalist, there are certain principles you have to
that's
adhere
still
to.
maintained.
On Facebook, you don't.
Right.
You know, you don't. You could put out your opinion, your point of view on a subject, and people believe you. While in journalism, I get my news from the war, from Al Jazeera, BBC, because still I think that's a more dependable way to go.
I think that's one of the things that that we have to bear in mind. Those who work in legacy media or mainstream media, in that yes, it is changing, which is why we're having that fourth topic on the list: is what's our future? How do we fit into all this change, and how do we make sure that the standards and principles that our profession requires lives through? I've had this discussion with Isani, and he asked about it and discussed that you're competing because citizen journalists, your YouTubers and your Facebookers are getting the information, and they have access to a tool and a platform to put it out there. And then you as a journalist say, I got beat. Should that be your concern, that they beat you to put out something, or should your concern be that that's a lead for you, and then you use that lead to flesh it out, to investigate it, to cover the angles of it, to make sure that you have the accuracy of it, that you are being responsible with presenting the information, because you're expected to operate at a different level. So the YouTuber and the Facebooker, and maybe even the Facebook news page, function at a completely different level from you, and you should not try to see yourself as them and to try to see yourself to be able to compete with their timeliness, because your product and what you're producing is for accuracy, is for responsibility. It is to uphold the role that you play in your societal construct as the person or the entities that hold systems to account. And you can't hold systems to account if you're not being true, and if you're not being accurate, which is also the reason for the other topic, which is the whole journalism of verification. That whole thing of verifying, check, and check again, and make sure that you're accurate and that your integrity is there and that you're covering your bases. Because at the end of the day, they may not hold a YouTuber or a Facebooker liable in a court, but they will hold you liable in a court. And so you have to function at a completely different level. You're functioning as a professional, not just as a social conversationist offering information, opinions, and views. Even when you're offering opinions and views, there's a certain demand on you to be accurate, to be fair, and to employ certain standards in how you express those opinions and views.
Well said.
Now, who holds you to that standard? That journalist herself or himself have to hold themselves?
Well, I think it's a two-pronged thing, and I think the strongest, and I think Nazima will tell you this, is that the strongest means of policing is self-policing, because it means that you've set for yourself a standard on how you will behave, on what your disciplines will be, on what your ethics will be. If you look at the Bar Association and you look at BMDA, they hold themselves to a certain account.
That's why we need an association. That's why we need the training you're putting out. That's why we need all that.
You know, because it is, I think the strongest policing comes from you. And yes, there's a Belize Broadcasting Authority, and they're supposed to play a certain role. And traditionally, all they've been concerned about is your license, that you have a license and that you pay your fees. But there's so much more outside of that. We had a discussion about the recent revamped defamation bill. And so those things will come knocking at your door if you're not behaving according to how you're supposed to comport yourself.
When the session is over, come back with a couple of your participants and tell us what you learned and so on. And we need to keep this momentum
Well, Ernesto,
going.
we definitely hope so, because as I mentioned to you off camera, is that I'm hoping that from the cadre of people that we that attend, that we can identify persons who are interested to start walking the walk towards an association. I've identified an attorney who is willing to help, who's willing to help us draft those articles, but we need founding members. We need leadership, and the leadership needs to come from within. I mean, I can be there and I can agitate and I can try to, you know, keep it going, but at the end of the day, it needs membership and it needs management, and it needs you all the media workers in Belize to accept that these are the standards that we want for us, and we're serious about it.
How do they participate?
Well,
we're running out of time, but
yes.
Yeah.
For them to get in touch with me, 607-2929. For those in the districts, there'll be a link. For those in the city, we're asking you to come together at the Belize Institute of Management at 9 a.m. on May 28th. It'll only be for a few hours. I know a Greek show is that day, but we can do a Greek show in the afternoon, and we can really have a beer over what we did in the morning and how we've put nuts and bolts in place to get our profession together. So spend the morning with us and then go to a Greek show and have a beer and discuss
where it's going to be?
At the Belize Institute of Management, 9 a.m., May 28th. And my number is 607-2929. Send a WhatsApp, send a text, and we will get
all right.
all the information.
The hours again?
It's from 9 till midday.
9 till midday.
Yeah.
All righty. Thank you for coming in, Deidre. We have to continue. One of the things with this profession, we are on time. We are always running out of time.
Yeah, and that's one thing we can't get away from. And to you as well, Naxima, thank you for lending your opinions as well.
Yeah.
So thank you.
And thank you for having an interest in us.
And I hope to see you on the 28th.
And I hope you visit us one day.
I can't wait. It's one of my dream destinations.
All right, well.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care. 4 minutes after 8, we'll be back, and we'll be doing a little bit more of the promotions. We'll have our guests. Well, she mentioned the Agric show. and we have businesses that are participating, and one of those will be coming in and telling us what they'll have for specials on that day.
Yes, indeed. When we come back.